Hey everybody, welcome to Sid's Little Corner of the Internet. We've got another Transformers review coming your way. This time around we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Studio Series number 80 Brawn. So this is Brawn as we saw him in the opening sequence of that 2018 Bumblebee movie. As we always do, let's go ahead and take a look at that packaging. And right up top you have Bumblebee, you have Brawn, and yeah, he's got beady little eyes and strange little face. But it's still pretty cool. Studio Series, number 80 Brawn, Transformers up the side. Got that artwork on the side right there. You get your product shots in the back. Big screen inspired. Cybertron falls. Brawn helps his Autobot allies hold the line against the Decepticons before being knocked by an enemy blast. It's never good to be knocked by an enemy blast, and hence the sad baby. But we have all the warnings down there. Getting a little close-up of the artwork there. He is a Deluxe class. Bumblebee up top. Manufacturing information below. So that is it for the box. Let's go ahead and see what came inside that package right there. Behold, laid out here before you is everything that came inside that package. And we'll start right here in the middle. Little sheet of warnings. Yay for warnings. And then you get your instruction booklet. Always nice to have. And he does come with these two accessories right here. So let's go ahead and start on the left. This is his drill tip, drill head, whatever you want to call it. Could be one heck of a nice offensive weapon. So let's go ahead and bring that in for the close-up. So you do have a little bit of that paint here on the blade area, whatever you want to call these, on the flutes. And it looks pretty good. I like the sculpting on this. It's a handsome piece, as they would say. Now back here, not a lot going on. You do have a 3mm port, and we'll see that in use later. And another 3mm port, and we'll see that in use later as well. And yeah, that's about it. So there you go, good looking piece. And then he does come with his rifle. So this is a nice big gun, just like his Wavemates Wheeljack and Ratchet. He comes with a big gun, but they're not painted. They're just molded in varying different shades of gray plastic, but they do have a lot of nice sculpted detail, and they all are very similar to each other, but they are different. So they have a lot of similarities, but they are not the same. Alright, so there it is from one side. You do have those ports on the side, or that port on the side. And over here, a whole lot of the same thing. And there he is underneath, and you do have that port underneath, and we'll see that in use later as well. Unfortunately, we have no blast compatibility, blast effect compatibility. It's kind of a bummer, but that seems to be par for the course for this wave of Studio Series figures. Alright, so that's it for the accessories, other than the included display base, which I say it every time, glad they supply these, but I don't have room, so I'm going to fold it back up, put it back in the box, put my box in storage, and then Brawn will just be sitting on the shelf without his little pedestal. Alright, so that's it for the accessories. Let's go ahead and bring Brawn in and take a look at his details. Here he is, the tough, scrappy little Autobot we've been waiting to see. This is the Studio Series Brawn. So let's go ahead and bring him in, take a look at those details. And right off the bat, I like him, don't get me wrong, but I'm just seeing Halo Grunt. Everywhere I look on this guy, I mean, this is Halo Grunt. It's cool, I like it. It's just whenever I look at him, that's what I see. But yeah, let's go ahead and see if we can focus on that lovely, lovely, lovely face. Absolutely a face a mother would have to love. All right, looks good. A lot of nice detail in there. I really do like it. I make a little bit of fun, but this is a unique look, and I do appreciate that very much, that we didn't just get a remold of something else. And he's got some detail right there in the chest. Got that Autobot symbol right there on the front. And coming down to that crotch. This all looks good. You do have nice paint applications on the legs as well. He does have a few hollow areas here and there, but they're not the worst I've seen on figures, so I can certainly deal with this. This is not an issue. He's got little silver kneecaps. How adorable. And then he's got big old Bumblebee style feet. And then he's got those silver caps right there. Don't let him kick you. That would probably hurt. And coming over here to the side, even on the side, these legs look cool. I just like all the sculpted detail, everything that they've got in there. And then you get those wheels. Looks good. Looking up underneath, not real bad. You know, at least they filled these hollow areas in with the upper portion of the arm for the rotation right there, and then you've got all this detail right there. So very much appreciated. Coming around to the back, he is one of the few bots, particularly lately, that does not fall apart when you look at him from behind. I think he looks good from every angle. So I really, really, really like the look of this little guy. He does have a little bit of hollowness here, but it couldn't really be avoided just simply based on how the transformation goes. So, you know, when you're transforming this guy, this flips all the way around. So you've got to have clearance there. And when you look closely, they're not too badly hollow, really. So yeah, details-wise, or overall looks, I give this guy really high marks. I think he looks great. He is tiny. He's even tinier than Ratchet and Wheeljack, but, you know, in the G1 version, he was one of those microbots, so this makes perfect sense. And he's just a little teapot, man. He's short and stout, and he's ready to take out some Decepticons. Moving on to the articulation for little Brawn here. He's got his ups and he's got his downs, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. We'll start with that head. First thing, right off the bat with the head, you're not going to get any up or down. You're not going to get any side-to-side quizzical looks. The only thing you're going to get to do is turn his head to the left that way, or that much. Turn his head to the right that much. And you can have him doing like a really vigorous no, like he's in denial about something if you want to do that. As far as the arms go, you can bring him up that far at the shoulder. You can go all the way around with that shoulder if you need to. You have double jointed elbows, which is always welcome. You do have a little bit of bicep rotation here, so it's not the easiest thing in the world to see, but you do get a few degrees of bicep rotation. And the easiest way to show it is actually to just try to turn that right there. So where it's happening is right down here, and you're not getting very many degrees. I may be able to show it a little bit better over here. This one just works just a tick better than the other arm does. So you just get a few degrees of that rotation right there. Not a lot, but every little bit helps, right? And then down here at the wrist, you do get wrist rotation, so you can take those all the way around, which is definitely helpful when you want to have him holding his gun. And then you do get waist rotation. You go all the way around with the waist. And then at the legs, depending on where you have these wheels, you can get about that much as far as the splits go, which is going to be more than enough. I mean, he's already a little guy. How much lower to the ground does he need to get? You know, unless he's completely down and out for the count. All right, and then you do have, I don't want to call it thigh rotation, but you do get rotation right above the knees, so you can take those all the way around if you need to do that. And then as far as the knee itself goes, without disconnecting that joint, you get just over 90 on that knee. Oh, we got to talk about the kicks, don't we? Oh, the kicks. He can kick forward that far. He can kick backward that far. So nice motion in the front and the back. Front kicks, back kicks. He's got it. A little bit of a brain fart there. All right, then we already talked about that rotation, and then coming down here to the feet, you do get a little bit of ankle rotation, or ankle tilt. So you can get some nice deep tilt on there and do one of those. I didn't want to wait for the sumo. I love the sumo. And then as far as the toes go, you can take the toes down and do that if you want to, and get them up about that far. So a little bit of motion in those feet, definitely enough to get him in some nice poses, no doubt about it. So details, aesthetics are great on this guy. Articulation's pretty good. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more in the head, and, you know, of course the splits would have been nice, but you pretty much get it everywhere else. A little bit more bicep rotation. So yeah, for a deluxe class figure, he's right on par with the articulation. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get this guy accessorized up. We'll bring in his weapons. We'll take a look at him there and see all the things that you can do. All right, gang, I have to issue a correction here. I was wrong, and I'm really glad that I was. This gun is blast effect compatible. I mentioned that earlier in the accessories segment that it was not. I was wrong. His two wave mates, Wheeljack and Ratchet, their guns do not have blast effect compatibility. So I made the assumption that this one didn't either. I'm really glad I checked before I did this segment. So you can see just having that blast effect compatibility takes it up a notch. And he's got just enough compatibility elsewhere that you can get this guy in some really exciting poses. And of course he has that 3mm port in his butt for a flight stand, so you can get this guy a little bit airborne. So you can utilize, he has a small peg on his back you can utilize for the blast effects. Personally, I don't think they look as good as when you can push them in. So if this, instead of being a male peg, if it would have been a female port, then you could have pushed this blast effect all the way in. I think it would have looked a lot better. But that rifle looks great. And then he does have the ports on the bottoms of his feet, so you can make Rocket Brawn, and you can have just like a little flying teapot halo grunt coming at you, trying to take out some Decepticons. So all that looks good. You can also see with the rifle here that you can store the drill head right on top. There's just a port and peg system right on top where you can do that. Additionally, you can use the peg on his back. Sorry if I bumped the camera. You can use the peg on his back to store the drill head or to store the rifle itself. The rifle, as it comes back around, we'll see the rifle has a 3mm port on the side where you can just plug it right into that peg as well. So you do have some options with this guy here. He doesn't look as good with his gun on his back as Ratchet does, but he could still pull it off, and it still looks pretty good. So this is the port that I was talking about. All right, so like I said, really glad I double-checked this, because this just takes it up a notch for me. So now that we've got the accessories out of the way, let's go ahead and get this guy into his alt mode, and we'll look at his details there. You know, I can't put my finger on what exactly it is that I like about this alt mode, but I really like this alt mode. I don't know if it's because it looks like a moon rover, or if it's because of those Brawn colors, or if it's because it simply just rolls really well. I don't know, but this is a cool alt mode. I really, really dig it. But let's go ahead and bring it in and take a look at those details on there. You got that nice silver paint up front. You've got that cockpit right there. Got that grill in the front. Looks a little bit like a radiator. And then coming around to the side, just looks cool. I don't know what it is, but I really like this. I even forgive the mushroom pegs on this guy. He just looks great. Just good touches and details and paint everywhere. Even here, obviously, as you can see, these are his legs and then the tops of his feet. You get detail in there. Just great. Come around to the back. Even the back looks good. It doesn't fall apart at all. Got that Autobot symbol right there, as you would see for his chest. And then, of course, coming around to this side, he is the same. He's symmetrical on both sides. The weakest point is going to be up on the top right here, where that head just kind of tucks away. So it would have been nice if they would have had something here that would cover that up. But even then, it's not bad. Plus, you do get the added bonus if you use a tool. You can get up in there, and you can pop that head out so he can look around. Hey, what's going on? And then you can just, whoop, just put that head back in. So, but yeah, I really like this guy. So there he is from the top. There he is from the bottom. And like I said, this guy, he just rolls. It's so nice. This is one of the nicest rolling deluxe class figures that I have dealt with in a long time. Where are you going? Come back here. Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and get his accessories on. This guy doesn't have any blast effect compatibility. Or at least nothing really worth mentioning. So we'll just go ahead and bring his accessories in now, and we'll talk about what you do with those. So he does, of course, come with his big rifle, and then he comes with that drill tip, or that drill head. And what you're going to do for the drill head is right here on the front, you have that grill. And if you look up underneath, this is, you know, a 5mm port, so you could use a blast effect there if you choose to do so, but it is really meant for that drill head. So you actually rotate this around. It's kind of on its own axle or axis right there, and you rotate that around so you have that pointing forward, and then you can just take that drill head and plug it in and stick that in any orientation you want. You do have that smaller 3mm port if you're going to use it. You could have it sitting up, or you could turn it around, have it sitting down, or heck, have that any orientation you want. Why do I care? You know, you do also have the option with that 3mm port. You could put it up here if you wanted to do something like that. So that looks kind of cool. I still like the rifle up there better, but it looks pretty cool. And, of course, if you wanted, you could plug that in, and you get to just have like a super deluxe uber crazy long rifle thing going on. And on that rifle underneath, you have a smaller port as well. So you could do that if you wanted to have the overhang. But ideally, per the instructions, you want your rifle up there, and then you want the drill head right there. And I'm just going to orient that up. And then, yeah, you have something that looks like that. And it works. I mean, it's a Cybertronian vehicle, and it just looks cool. This really works for me. So just yeah, and it makes me think of Total Recall, just with that drill and quotes the original 1987 Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger, not the remake. But yeah, I'm thinking about Benny, the character Benny from Total Recall, and they've got that "I'm gonna drill you, sucker" moment. So yeah, really cool stuff. And sorry about that impression. That's an absolutely awful impression. But I guess my biggest complaint in this mode is just going to be just the small, shallow ports that they use up here. So you have that very small peg on the top, and then you have just this shallow port right there. So it doesn't give you a lot of security. You can plug it in, and it's not like it's going to fall off or anything. But, you touch it a little too much, and then it does. But how many times are you going to have this figure upside down? So, yeah, there you go. I mean, this is really cool. I like this alt mode very much. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and we'll bring in those comparisons, and we'll take a look at him against some other alt modes from some other lines. All right, everybody. So I figured for our comparisons, it only makes sense to start where it all began, if you will. So for our first comparison, this is the G1 Brawn. So you can see how those two guys look next to each other. Moving on to our next comparison, this is the Brawn figure that we got when the 2009 Revenge of the Fallen movie came out. So this is Brawn in his Earth configuration of the loosely based Hummer vehicle. Moving right along to our next comparison, this is the representative from the Transformers Prime universe. So this is Optimus Prime as we saw him from Transformers Prime. Making his presence known to be the representative for the War for Cybertron trilogy, this is the Earthrise Ironhide, and I figured it only made sense because Ironhide and Brawn, both kind of those rough and tumble, good old boys, I guess you would call them, who were always ready for the fight. So Ironhide seemed like a good choice here. Next up is a fellow figure from the Studio Series Bumblebee movie line. So this is the Studio Series Cliff Jumper, as we saw him in the opening sequence of that 2018 Bumblebee movie. Moving on to our next comparison, this is also another Bumblebee Studio Series figure. So this is the Wavemate to Brawn, or one of the Wavemates to Brawn. This is the Studio Series Wheeljack, as we saw him in the opening sequence of that Bumblebee movie. Here we see Brawn with his other Wavemate. This is the Studio Series Ratchet from the Bumblebee movie. And yeah, these two guys, they look pretty cool. And finally, here are the three Wavemates together. All those figures from the Studio Series line for the Bumblebee movie. Of course, Ratchet, Brawn, Wheeljack, left to right. And man, these guys look really cool together. I really like it. So there you go. All right, that's it for the alt modes. Let's get this guy back into his bot mode and do some comparisons there. So for our first robot mode comparison, here we see the Studio Series Brawn next to the original G1 Brawn. Next up, this is the Brawn figure that we got with the 2009 movie release for Revenge of the Fallen. Representing the War for Cybertron trilogy, here we see the Studio Series Brawn next to the War for Cybertron Earthrise Ironhide. Moving on to our next comparison, this is Optimus Prime from the Transformers Prime series. Here we see Brawn with a fellow Studio Series Bumblebee release. This is the Studio Series Cliff Jumper, as we saw him in the Bumblebee movie. For a Wavemate comparison, here we see the Studio Series Brawn next to the Studio Series Wheeljack from the Bumblebee movie. For our next comparison, this is the Studio Series Ratchet from the 2018 Bumblebee movie. And I really like the fact here, just pointing out that both of these are deluxe classes, but I really appreciate that they did pay attention to scale here, because if you look in the movie, and historically Brawn has been a smaller bot, and you can see here that there's definitely a size difference, even though both of these guys are deluxe classes. So it's a nice touch. And finally, just because I thought it would be kind of fun, here is Brawn with a bunch of other figures from the Bumblebee movie, and you can see how the Studio Series for the Bumblebee movie is kind of coming together, and you can see some of those figures in their Earth modes, in their Cybertronian modes, and it's just really cool to see all these guys come together, so I thought I would share this with you. All right, that wraps up the bot mode comparisons. Let's go ahead and get into those final thoughts. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about those final thoughts on the Studio Series Brawn from the Bumblebee movie. Man, I like this figure. I really, really like this figure. I think this guy is the closest thing to a must-have we've had out of the Studio Series in a really long time. That being said, let's go ahead and quantify this guy a little bit. We'll start with the aesthetics. This guy looks great from every angle. Bot mode, he looks so cool. Front, back, up, down, side, the level of detail everywhere on this guy. The paint apps, there aren't many, but there's just enough that it works. He looks really cool. I absolutely adore the way this figure looks in both modes, and I love that alt mode. It's just funky. It looks like a moon buggy. It just does it for me. I really like the looks of this figure, and I think he has a great shelf presence. I'm going to give this guy a 10 out of 10 for the aesthetics. I think for the Deluxe class, this is about as good as it gets when it comes to shelf presence and looks. Moving on to the articulation, he suffers a little bit. There's definitely enough there where you can get the job done as far as dynamic posing, but there still are some items where I think he does fall a little bit behind, particularly in the head. It would have been nice if that head was on a ball joint where you could actually get some up and down and some quizzical side-to-side looks instead of just that rotation. And even that rotation, you only get a few degrees either way. So you are kind of limited on that head. The biceps, you get movement technically, but you're not really getting a lot there. So it would have been nice to have a little bit more. And then always in the feet, it would always be nice to have a little bit more in the feet, a little more up, down. The ankle tilt is definitely generous, but just having some up, down, particularly in those heels, would have been helpful as well. So articulation, I'm giving this guy a 7 out of 10. Moving on to the accessories. Yeah, the accessories are pretty good. This is between Brawn and his wave mates, the Studio Series Ratchet and Studio Series Wheeljack. He's definitely the strongest of the three here. First and foremost, he has blast effect compatibility. So yay, that's a good thing. And secondly, he does come with 2 accessories instead of just 1. So he has that drill head and he has that rifle. And you can use those in so many different ways and store them in really cool ways in his bot mode and in his vehicle mode. So I do appreciate that. So for the accessories, I'm going to give this guy an 8 out of 10. Really, the only thing I could say as far as accessories is it would have been nice to have some paint on that gun. It's just kind of bland. But 8 out of 10 on accessories, I think job well done. Overall quality. Yeah, this guy is the opposite of Wheeljack and Ratchet. He's a brand new design. He's a brand new mold. We've never seen this mold before. And finally, he's a figure where all the joints are tight. Unlike the Wheeljack and the Ratchet, whose joints were way too loose coming out of the box. That was kind of disappointing. He's the exact opposite. His joints are tight. He does everything he's supposed to do. He can hold his gun upright without it falling. He's not going to fall over because of loose leg joints. So all of that is good. I don't have any issues with the paint. The accessories look good. About the only thing that I could say was there was just the tiniest bit of flash on one of the tabs, molding flash on one of the tabs whenever you were taking him to his vehicle mode. Just had to clean that up a little bit, but overall not too bad. I'm going to give this guy a 9 out of 10 on quality. And moving on to our last bullet, which is overall value. Between Brawn and his 2 wave mates, Wheeljack and Ratchet, this guy is the one who I feel the most comfortable with the price point. I think he is absolutely worth the price of the Deluxe class. Yeah, he's the smallest out of the 3 of them, but no doubt in my mind he is the best. He looks great, great quality, and just an overall cool figure. And I think the value is there in this figure. I'm going to give this guy a 9 out of 10 on overall value. I picked this guy up from Amazon.com for $22 US, and I think he's worth every cent. Absolutely. I just adore this figure. I can't say enough good things about him. So for a total out of 50, or out of a possible 50, Brawn gets 43 out of 50, which puts him at 86%. So I can easily recommend this figure. I think if you can find him pick him up. He's so cool. I mean, even if you don't really collect the Bumblebee Studio Series movies, this is just a cool transforming figure. He's fun. He's just totally worth picking up. I can't say enough good things about him. So with that, that's going to wrap the review up. I hope you guys got some good information out of this. I hope you were entertained. And if you haven't already done so, be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe and leave some comments. Let me know what you think. And yeah, what you guys want to see next. So we're just going to keep pumping this stuff out for you. So until we see you in the next review, take care.